What is a civilization? What is a species without the carried on wisdom of generations before us? There are many traditions in India, and I wouldn't say all of them are of value today because many rituals and traditions in society and civilization also need to be updated as we move along as a species and as a race. The most important tradition for me is the family values. Your parents, your grandparents, your siblings. Maybe as a young girl, I may have found that oppressive or I may have resisted it as a teenager one does. But my parents and my family continued to keep that bond. It was not that I reached a certain age and I resisted and they pushed back and gave me space, which I would have loved at that age. But the support and care that they have continued to give me is making me the person I am and continue to grow. I was born into a royal family, but I lived a lot outside of the palace because my father was working like a normal person. My father was a government officer. And so in my very, very earlier childhood, the identity was just of a small, happy family. But as I remember growing up, it was about spending more time in my palace with my grandparents and with my cousins and enjoying the spaces. And then coming back to a small house. It didn't feel like balancing because, when you're used to it from childhood, living in two separate homes and having two different lives, it was very simple. It was just that, now we are going to our grandparents. That was the fun, not the fact that the bathroom was as big as my entire house in the city. Children adapt. It's not something you think too much about. It was very normal for me. My father had a transferable job, so some places we went without much luggage. So it was so nice. It was very liberating to have very few things. There was great simplicity and joy in not having the responsibility of too many things, which I greatly enjoyed. And we would spend a lot of time in the forest because my father is a wildlife conservationist. He loves being in the forest or in the mountains. And my sister and I, we are very close, but we are 10 years apart in age. So she was in a boarding school while I was growing up, and then she got married in college. So I didn't spend that much time with her growing up. So I was quite like an only child in those years. So I would talk to myself, make stories up in my head, play and act and sing and dance. I did a lot of things on my own, which was coming out of boredom. But it was a very creative phase as a child because you're imagining yourself in the future and what you'll be when you grow up. And you're talking to trees and you're splashing in the stream water. And so it was a very, very connected to nature upbringing. If I were to think of a time that I wished I wasn't born into a royal family, after my college, I wanted to study abroad. And my father did not stop me from applying, but I knew that he was not very keen that I go abroad. And even when I wanted to study in a co-educational college, because he was traditional in that sense, because then I may have a boyfriend. If I'm unsupervised with boys, then it could mean that I may have a boyfriend and tomorrow I may want a love marriage and he will not be from my community, which was a very big thing at that point of time. But I think other than that, I have been very, very proud of my background and roots, and I continue to be grateful for that. Arranged marriages in India have always existed and continue to exist. When the boy or girl are of a marriageable age and are ready to look for partners, a life partner, then the parents will discuss with them, should we start looking, where our daughter will adjust well, who has our family values, whose standard of living is similar, who doesn't have any serious illness in the household, there is no history of alcoholism or violence. So there's a lot of screening that parents do before finding a family. And then you find many families. In my case, I met 17 boys. because my parents were very social. They had a very large group of friends and family, and they felt that if they can give the choice to the daughter, why not? They said that as parents, we would like you to have as much choice as possible, and the decision was entirely mine. So there was no pressure. Very often people think that it means that the boy or girl don't have a choice. They do have a choice. The son is very important in an Indian family. I come from that traditional background, so I fully understand the importance and value that is ascertained to have a boy in the house. So that would a pressure I would take on myself. But from my husband, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, I was very, very fortunate that there was no pressure from them. There are so many women in India who experience this pressure, and very poor families in India have multiple children for that boy, and those children are not receiving the kind of love, attention, nutrition, education that they deserve because parents can't afford it. But because this importance of having a son is so deeply entrenched in the traditions of India, that they work very hard to do that. I spoke with my daughter. She was about 13, 14, and I said, I'm not going to try for a boy now. I just want you to know that. And my older daughter said to me, oh, I thought you would adopt Mama. And I was shocked that I am raising these two beautiful daughters who are exceptional, and I am raising them to be modern girls, modern women. And my daughter would think that she will be replaced, that I will adopt someone just because he's a boy and he will have more rights than her. In her mind also, it was just a normal thing. And that made me realize that I need to speak about this more, and no girl should feel that she is not good enough just because she's a girl. One of the most important lessons that I feel I would like to teach my daughters, and it just came to me sitting here in Ostrava in a meditation day before, was be kind to yourself and be kind to others. I think that is the first lesson I would want them to follow in life, because, we are sometimes very hard on ourselves. What is life without kindness towards yourself? I mean, the most important relationship and lifelong relationship you have is with yourself. And if you have a good relationship with yourself, then you can have a good relationship with the world.